Okay, it's like highlighted and earmarked, and I have to tell you, I've given this to every parent I know. Even my husband read it. Now, my husband doesn't read anything except historical fiction. So like nothing else, maybe a financial book. But I was like, look, you don't get to have any opinions or any or a voice. Talk to our children until you have done some work.
You're a nut. Well, thank you.
I'm a total nut, but what I love is that it's just so real. You're so real. You're super authentic, and you give strategies. And what I really, really love is it's just about teaching them how to be human beings for later. Like everything I've been doing over the last, well, my child's only 7, so the last 7 years is this something that he needs to know when he's 30? Can he use this? And I used to actually teach preschool, and I used to say, if you're having a problem, walk away, or just close your ears to it or get help. And when you're 30, you can walk away, you're going to close your ears, or you're going to go get the police or a friend or so I'm going to let you talk now, but I'm just so excited. So
okay,
what I really want to start with is, that you're the less is more versus permissive parenting. I have to say I'm a little in the closet about being a conscious parent because I'm afraid that the other parents judge me as, oh, you let him rule the house, right? Oh, you're not in control, right? So I'd love for you to explain to people the difference.
So this comes up all the time. It sounds as if less means, oh, I'm going to give up my authority as the leader of the pack. I'm going to allow my child to kind of make the rules and explore. And if anybody knows me, they know that could not be further from the truth. Permissive parenting is no more helpful than authoritarian parenting. And this is about the balance. That's why it's a less is more. So the less nagging you do, the more action you get from your child, which is what you want. The less nagging you get, the more responsiveness you get from your child. The less you do for your child, the more they do for themselves, so you don't feel like the maid and you don't feel resentful. So it's not about not doing anything and giving the children charge of the home. It's about optimizing what you do as a parent to get the most out of your child so that you can remain emotionally available to them, which is really what they need their parents for. They don't need us to do things for them that they can do for themselves. And so all we're doing is kind of reframing this idea about what it means to help our kids, to be involved in our children's lives. And I think when people kind of see the shift, the permissive question goes right off of the table. So yeah. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, and I think how you explained it, and I read your blogs too, and took your course, and that permissive parenting, no boundaries, was really helpful for me. And less is more is the respect for the parent and the child, right. And I think that's where I feel like a lot of parents forget that their children are not their possession, and they're not they're their boss. Right. And you say that in one of your blogs is like, I don't want to be the boss mom, because that's the controlling parent.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you pegged it. Here's the thing. The boundaries are what keep things stable. But you can have a parent who thinks, well, I run the roost and I'm the captain of the ship and I'm the leader of the pack and I tell my kids what to do, but then they never follow through. The boundaries change depending on the day, the mood, the situation, if they're pissed off at the kid. So that isn't healthy parenting. That's no better than just throwing in the towel and being permissive. I think at the center of this approach is being really clear about why you're making the decision that you're making, being very specific about the boundaries and what I call your non-negotiables. Like, this is my threshold. I'm not moving past this unless you give me a really good reason to change my mind. mind, and then following through, which is the thing that builds trust with kids. And what I see today is there is absolutely no follow through. There are threats, there's yelling, there's, punishment that they call consequences. But when you ask a parent to pull the trigger and follow through, they're like, well, he's going to be really sad. It's like, well, then, okay, then who's running the roost? The kid is running the roost. So,
but you know what? That is, and you know it because you're a parent of 5, right? Is we don't want our children to be sad. We don't want them to feel hurt. We don't want them to ever be upset. Now, granted, I understand that that's what gets them to the other side. That's what builds their character. But, how I think so much of that, and you touched on it, is beliefs, right? That where are your beliefs coming from? And Dr. Shefali Saberi talks about this, like really question your own beliefs about where they come from and what is a good child and what is the expectation of what they're supposed to be like at the restaurant or so I really like when you talked about beliefs and keeping kids safe. We think, what is that definition of safe?
Right. I think 90% of the problems that we get into as a parent come from a faulty belief system that has never been challenged. So in Adlerian psychology, there's this notion that somewhere between the ages of about 10 and 14, you make most of the decisions you're going to make about parenting. You look around your own family of origin and you say, wow, I really love this about my family. When I get to be a parent, I'm going to do it just that way. Oftentimes you look around and you go, this is really distasteful, won't be doing this. And you kind of close the book and you think, well, now I've got my parenting plan of what I will and will not do. And then suddenly you have kids and that belief system gets activated, but you haven't challenged it. It's not reflective of the person you're living with. It's based on your historical data, but it isn't based on the child that you're standing in front of. So even parents who say to me, well, I have this belief that as a good parent, I will provide cookies after my kids get home from school and I will be available to help them with their homework. And when their kids don't respond in a positive way to this positive belief they have, they're like indignant, like, well, and I think that was your belief about what you wanted, but this child has their own set of beliefs about what they need, what they want, and what's important. And the only thing that really matters is that when your belief is causing trouble with your kid, it's your job to challenge those and say, I got to reframe this. I have to examine this belief and how it is disrupting the relationship I have with my child and my child's ability to become an independent, self-reliant, responsible, cooperative human being. And I think that's hard for us. I think we want to point the finger at the kids and say, well, it's them. If they were better, if they were quieter, if they were kinder, if they listened, I wouldn't be feeling this way. That's, I call bullshit. Like, it's just not true.
True. That is such a great, that is so great because we don't want to have to go back and dig deep and challenge our beliefs and say, and change that and go, well, wait, was my mom wrong? But that felt good when I got cookies after I hurt my knee. And it's so our first instinct is you got hurt or I want to reward you. You're going to go get ice cream later. And I'm telling you, I'm like, where's my duct tape? Where's my duct? I got to stop. I have to stop that. But then the challenge is, what do we do instead? And so I think your book and your blogs do such a great job of actually giving that. But here's what you do instead and be prepared for it. And I say parenting, what you really need to build in is just time and patience. One of the reasons we start yelling at them is because, oh gosh, it's now time to go to bed, or it's time to get to school, or it's time to get to your music lesson, or, and so it's organizing. And so you do, you talk a lot about the preparing and the map. So
yeah. And I think, really parenting is a journey. And your child is always changing and growing. And what worked with them yesterday isn't going to work. And I said to, my partner, every time one of our kids comes down the stairs, we're meeting a new human being. What we thought we knew about them the week before may no longer be relevant. So we have to keep updating what we know about our kids and what works with them and what now doesn't work, and not be afraid to let all of that go. But there is so much personal prestige that goes along with parenting. Like, my child is a reflection of me. So they've got to be perfect. They've got to be polite. They've got to be kind. They've got to follow the rules. Well, no, they don't. That's not their job. The job of the child is not to make you look good. The job of the child is to go kick everything in front of them, explore, to be curious, to challenge, and for you to be there to enter into a conversation that goes, so why is that so troublesome for you? What is it about putting on your coat in the morning that is causing you so much angst, my darling? And help them figure out where the problem is. So when parents are like, well, you mean I can't do this, or I can't, it's like, just reframe the way you're looking at yourself as a parent and ask yourself, am I adequately preparing my child for the next situation that they'll probably find themselves in? And if the answer is no, then it's time to think about what you're going to do differently.
Okay, here's a real-time question, totally selfishly just about me and my child. So I have a 7-year-old, and he has a speech and language delay. So he is in a special class, and we just, but he's about a year behind in reading and writing. Now, granted, I'm not a huge fan of the education system, so behind, what does that mean? So I've put him into speech and language tutoring, and it really, you can tell it's helping him. Like, you know, I got to help him read. Maybe I don't need to help him read and write. See, I'm so like self-aware. I'm challenging every question I say, but so now he liked it in the beginning, and now he's like, I don't want to go. And I said, you know, why don't you want to go? Tell me. And he says, you know, I don't like her, and it's the worst. It's all he'll say is it's the worst. And I said, I think because it's probably hard. And, you know, and I get that. I think that things are really hard, but just because they're hard doesn't mean they're bad.
So that's really lovely that you have all that insight, Mom, but he didn't say any of those words. So you still don't know.
I thought I was doing right.
Still don't know anything. So your job is to ask curious questions that has the child go, oh, I never thought about that. Yeah. And here's the thing with curious questions. Parents ask their children questions so that they can get answers so that we can fix their problems. Right. That's not why you ask a child a question. Right. The point of questions is so that the child learns about himself and then shares the information with you. Not so that you get it first and then you regurgitate it back to your kid. But as an adult, that's how we look at that dynamic. So when you're in a conversation, the first thing I'd say is, what do you find most annoying about the teacher? Like, I'm going to jump into it. I'm not going to try and get out of it. I want to know every little, does your stomach ache? Is it the tone of her voice? Does she sit too close? Does she have bad breath? Does she get impatient? Because as he's talking, he's going to figure out like, oh, it's something very specific. It isn't just, I don't like her. There's something very specific going on. And
it's hard.
What's hard about it?
Well, I think because he has dyslexia.
No, for him, what you asked him. So what would he say? Oh, because I have this. So
right. So I'm just making the assumption that because he has dyslexia, it's really hard for him to see the words and process it. And I'm just.
That's not him. That's you. So I always ask, so what's hardest about it? So what's easiest about it? So where's the middle ground? So how have you gotten over other hard things in your life? Mm-hmm. Have you ever been challenged by something hard? So it's a dialogue. Here's what we do. Here's the problem. The kid goes, I don't like it. And the parent's like, well, let's solve it.
Yeah.
A kid lives in the middle, in the process.
Yeah.
So the questions are about the process, and eventually they shoot themselves to the solution. But we're so anxious to get there that we build the bridge, and they're still underneath in the process thinking she doesn't get it. She doesn't understand what I'm trying to tell her. She just wants it to be okay. So they go, yeah, okay, I'll try it again. I know it's hard. And they start mimicking, kind of regurgitating our words. But it's not what they're going through.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
kept asking more. Yeah, it makes total sense. And of course now I'm like, God, I wish he was sitting here. But he's now at tutoring because he did finally get out of the car. But when I kept asking more, like, what is it about it? He just said, she's just mean, and then I should have asked more, like, well, what's mean? Well, she just makes me keep doing, the things I don't like to do. I don't like to do it.
Mm-hmm. So what's that like for you when somebody asks you to keep doing something you don't want to do? What's that feeling in your belly? What happens in your head? What do you start thinking about yourself when you can't get it?
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it always goes back to how the person is processing. And if we're not asking kids to think about what is it like for you in that experience, we're trying to get them out and think logically. It's not a logical conversation. It's an emotional one. And it needs a parent to be able to kind of open up all the ways in which a child can look around and explore, like, what does this really mean? Those were big words and a big concept, but let's boil it down. Yeah.
Yeah, because now he's also saying he doesn't want to go to school anymore. And yeah, so I got to figure out how to get him to just stop saying it's just the worst. It's just the worst.
No, you don't have to figure out how to get him to stop saying it.
Okay.
You want him to understand what that really means.
Yes.
So the worst of what? The worst compared to what? Worse than breaking your arm and not being able to play baseball all season? Worse than, so that you get like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is worst?
Oh my gosh, that's so good. So I just need like a Vicky 911. Like, I can just say, wait, he just said it's the worst again. Now I got to the next sentence. Now what do I say? So, so that's really, really helpful. Okay, I will not take up the whole time on my kids, but so the other thing that I know a lot of parents are struggling with is screen time. And what I like, it was so brilliant, is that screens are about self-control. And because my husband, I'm not even kidding you, 10 minutes before I started reading this blog, he said, okay, we've got to stop the screens. We need a cabinet we can lock them in. And I was like, and I started reading this blog. I'm not kidding. I'm like, oh, no. Vicky says this is a great opportunity for them to teach. And it's funny because the 7-year-old is like, I just can't resist. I just can't resist. And I was like, wow, that's so self-aware. Great. I'm glad you know how to put a name to it. Now we got to work through it.
Right.
So
yeah, you got to build that skill set. So it's a little bit like, your child can't get up in the morning, forgets his lunch every day, and leaves his goggles for swimming at the swimming pool. And you think, we're going to get him a puppy so he can learn responsibility. It's like, okay, the puppy, you get the puppy as a result of the child already knowing how to do all those things. Yeah. And the same is true with technology. They haven't done anything to prove to you that they can manage the enormous possibilities that technology provides. And so we have the little lecture about, and you're going to put it down, and they're like, yeah, give me this.
Yeah. Oh, I will. 10 minutes, when that bell rings, I'll put it down. I promise.
Right. And of course they don't. And so it's an immediate conflict. So it's always about, my job is to say yes to your wanting more privileges and freedoms. That's my job. That means you're moving towards maturation. Your job is to convince me it's a good idea to say yes. And you need to show me that you have created the habit that supports the responsibilities that go along with this privilege. So what kinds of responsibilities would tell me that you could handle the technology? You could manage your time, you take care of your responsibilities, you can be trusted with the sites that you say you're going on. Great. So how can you show me without the technology that you've mastered all those skills? And if parents would do that, they wouldn't get into these fighting matches with kids about, yeah, but everybody else has, or it's going to be my 13th birthday. It's like, doesn't matter. As soon as you show me you can do this, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But the responsibility is on the kid, not on you. It's like, I said yes. Now you show me it's a good idea, and then we're golden. And oftentimes kids are not ready for what they're asking for. And there's a part of them that knows it and they'll let it go for a while. Then they'll come back up and ask. You've got your same kind of statement. The kid goes back and goes, you know what? I don't really want to work that hard for it. I just wanted it, but I don't want to put the work in. So the fight goes away. They're like, yeah, never mind.
Yeah, that is good. And so many parents, and they just, like, the bell rings and then they just take it away from them, which
Yeah.
then is like, now you're not teaching them anything. And they also feel this, like, they don't even understand that I'm really in this moment and I'm really enjoying it. And, and I've talked to a lot of people about, well, what if your kid just came in and turned the TV off in the middle of your favorite show, right? That's what you're going to feel. Now, of course, 10 minutes is 10 minutes, but there are times when, you really do only have, 2 more minutes of that video, of that one thing. Okay, you know what? I trust you that at 2 minutes, you're going to turn that off.
Exactly. So I think it's a give and take. I look at it in terms of what are the skill sets necessary to manage a technology that allows you to do a million different things. Okay, I know they're going to fail. I know they're going to mess up. That's built into all of my ideas. And so I think, all right, so how far will I let those mistakes go? How far out am I going to let this child go? What are the natural consequences that I can put in place first before I even get involved? Because Mother Nature doesn't hold a grudge. She doesn't scream and yell. It's just, it is what it is. And I think in our busy lives, in our like, no, we have to solve this. The kid has to know. It has to be like this. I told him, we had an agreement. We kind of miss the opportunity to let that skill building unfold in a really messy way over time until you start to see the child kind of connect the dots. And I've heard from so many parents that when they started to implement this differently, that their kids would start coming out and saying, I'm having a really hard time turning this off. I need you to do it for me. And the parents are like, okay, that is a hallelujah moment where a kid recognizes that they don't have the self-control to do it, and they go asking for some support from a parent. That's splendid.
So if the iPad or the screen is so built for addiction, are there things in between where we can teach them self-control? You know what I mean? Like, without it having to go to that extreme that is like, okay, I'm going to give you the whole bottle of whiskey and let me see if you can handle it.
Right. Well, think about how many areas in your life you have to demonstrate self-control. Not eating the extra piece of bread getting up with the alarm clock to go work out, deciding that you're going to follow up with a phone call that's going to be difficult. All of that requires self-control. You don't need to put a device in a child's hand and say, now show me self-control. It's like, right. It takes self-control, self-regulation, and self-discipline to put your clothes away because there's something more fun to do. Yeah. So you're looking for that daily interaction, the way a child constructs their life, and that informs you about what they can handle and when it's time. And it's not a bad idea to say, yes, we'd like to introduce you to the iPad. Hi, iPad, this is John. I'd like the two of you to spend 10 minutes together today getting to know each other. And at the end of the 10 minutes, we're going to say goodbye to the play date, so that a child was slowly introduced and could feel what it was like at 10 minutes to say goodbye to the technology, so that they're not surprised when it's been 2 hours of zone time and now somebody goes, that's enough, you've been on this too long.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't work.
Yeah, I've definitely messed that one up. And there's within that blog, you said something, your number one character trait that leads to success is self-control. And you are in an 18-year project. This is a project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a little bit every day, and possible way they are going to be successful with technology if they are not taught in slow increments how to use it, when to turn it off, what it's doing to their brain, how it affects their body, what happens when they disconnect and they have to, there are so many missing pieces in the teaching right now that it's more about, we made an agreement, we put it on paper, you broke the agreement, you lose the computer, that's the end of it. It's like,
no mistakes.
What the teaching was. I missed where you're teaching right there. Yeah. So It's a wasted opportunity, and you're going to do exactly the same thing tomorrow. So there will be no movement and no growth in that area.
And they think, we think that it's going to happen the first time.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, wait a minute. We made this agreement. You're supposed to get that. Mm-hmm. And their little, 7-year-old mind is like, wait, I'm here in the moment right now, loving what I'm doing. So I really can't, I don't remember what we talked about a week ago.
Absolutely. And I challenge any adult out there who breaks promises to themselves all the damn time. So one of the things I say all the time is you have higher expectations for your children than you do for yourself. You let yourself off the hook all damn day, but your 7-year-old is supposed to toe the mark every damn day. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. You are a bad role model because your kids are watching you not demonstrate self-control, discipline, or regulation and get away with it, make excuses for it. But then you turn and look at them and suddenly they're supposed to have it dialed in. It's like, come on, people, get off it.
Oh my God. I'm telling you, preach. That is, it's so real, and people do. They expect their children to be better, more perfect. And when you did, when you were talking about the self-control on the screens, you said there are 3 things. Number 1, to model it, right? Are you on your screen all day? Are you texting while you're talking to them? Yeah. Are you, telling them that they need to turn it off at dinner, but you've got it on the table? So, and it's so much about being aware. And then that people will say, well, but I'm waiting for a call, but I'm waiting for, that's just your distraction,
and that's your justification. And that's what we do. We justify that somehow we're more important. Unless you're talking to the security service about something, you're just doing the same thing your kid is doing, waiting for the next entertaining moment. Yours is just, well, I have a friend who's waiting to text me about an engagement tomorrow. Well, he's waiting for the guy to jump over the little wall. I don't know what the difference is. Like, what's the difference?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so good to put it in those terms. The second one is talking about technology, which is
every day
age appropriate. And you know what the Common Core is, not Common Core, the Commonwealth speaker series is doing that too, about talking about technology. So I'm sure there's a lot of resources that help give you some guidance on how to talk about technology. And then, of course, letting kids practice and fail, letting them feel the consequences.
Yeah.
So what do you think about consequences? Like, is that just another word for punishment?
Yep. Everybody's dressed it up. So the kind of framework for a real consequence when it's there's a parent involvement is it has to be respectful, related, and reasonable. So for instance, if a child wrote on the wall, a real consequence would be, oh, it looks like you've written on the wall. There's some 409 in the back corner in the closet. Go ahead and give it a clean, and thanks very much. Then it turns into punishment when you're not going to be able to watch TV and you have to clean the whole wall, and how many times have I told you? That's punishment. Yeah. So I don't even teach consequences any longer because nobody can be trusted with them. I say if it isn't a natural consequence, it's probably a punishment. So don't do it. It's not worth ruining the relationship with your child over something that you're not really going to resolve. It isn't going to have a good ending, and the child is going to hold a resentment towards you for making them feel bad for making a mistake. Because everything a child does that activates a parent's need to punish is a mistake. I don't think kids should be punished for making mistakes. I think they should be encouraged to make as many as they possibly can when they're young so that they understand what a mistake is, what it means to resolve it, how to make amends, and then to make a smarter choice the next time to avoid all of those other things. And we don't allow them enough practice to build in that skill set. I really think kids are missing something crucial that makes adulthood much easier to manage.
When you give them a timeout in their room, I'm sorry, what are they? I tell people I haven't given my 7-year-old a timeout in 7 years. And they're like, what? How is that possible? And I'm like, because everything is a teaching moment.
Everything.
So I had a friend who, she came into her bedroom, and her 4-year-old and his little play date had a water fight in her bedroom. And she was like, she said she just lost her S. And she like, boy, that kid will probably never come over again because she was so mad. And she said, well, what would you do? And I said, and I'm asking, I said, I probably would have walked in and said, holy cow, this looks like that was so much fun. This looks like it was a blast. But now we got to clean it up. So you're going to go get some paper towels and you're going to get the vacuum, and it's going to probably take us, 45 minutes to clean this up. And I don't know, we might have to use toothbrushes or whatever, Q-tips, but it's going to take a long time.
The only thing I would say is I love that. Oh my gosh, you guys must have had so much fun, because the fear in the child evaporates immediately, so that they're not in the fight, flight, or freeze mode anymore. They're looking at us. We see the smile. That smile activates us. And then I would ask questions instead of saying, and now here's what's going to happen, because you moved to the solution. I live in the process exactly. So I would have said, wow, so now what happens?
Yeah.
Who's going to do what? How long do you think it will take? Shall we call John's mom and say he's going to be late? Would you like to dial the phone and tell her what you did? So all of those are learning moments and skill set development that we rush because we're like, okay, well, you had fun. That's great. Now, here's what's going to happen. You go get the rag, you get the boat back. It's going to, and the kids sitting there like, oh, okay, sure.
Oh, that's so good. That I'm like evolving. I don't care about anybody else, but that have helped me a ton. But I think again, those having them be responsible for for the mistake, that's where they're learning. If my child broke an iPad once, and so I didn't ask questions, but after today, I will be asking a lot more questions. But I just talked to him about that it's going to cost money to get it fixed now. So how can he earn some money to help me get it fixed? What does it feel like to have to not have it for a while because now it's out being repaired? And what does it feel like to have to earn money to get something fixed? Because that's the reality when he's 18.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or 12 when he breaks something of somebody else's. It's like, so I don't think you can go wrong if in your mind you think, if this was an adult in the outside world, what would the natural trajectory be?
Right.
Nobody would be yelling and lecturing and punishing. They'd say, oh, you broke the iPad. Okay. It costs $150. I need it by tomorrow. And that's the end of that. And we miss the simplicity of just solve the problem. We don't need to make anybody feel bad when they make a mistake.
Right. And just process it.
Yes.
This is what the questions are, which is so brilliant, and help them process through, and some people will, say, well, at 4 years old, they're too young to process. Well, really, when are you going to decide to process? Because
And an infant doesn't come out speaking language. We don't say to an infant, oh yeah, we speak the language we want them to grow into. Mm-hmm. So we introduce a 4-year-old to a process that they will be growing into. We don't wait, and then turn the light on at 9 and go, all right, you should know this now. It's a matter of introducing long before the child can comprehend, but they get used to the language, they get used to the follow through, they get used to, and that's what builds their foundation for understanding the world. Not just suddenly a parent goes, it's time for you to know this, so know it. And the kid's like, I've never even heard this before, and you want me to suddenly know it and embody it. And then again, it's a moment of real friction between a parent and a child.
Nothing kills me more, and I will admit it has come out of my mouth, and then I'm quick, only maybe twice, but you should know better. Like, why? Why should he know better? Even if it happened 2 weeks ago, they live in the moment. They don't live 2 weeks ago or 2 weeks from now. Yeah. And so, yeah.
Right. And if somebody said that to me, that's all I have to think is, if somebody said that to me, what would my response be? Would I be open-minded? Right. Would I be receptive? Would I feel connected? No, I would be resentful. I'd put my guard up. My trust level would diminish. So it's easy if we keep putting ourselves, one of the things that so resonated with me about Adler was his statement, hear with their ears, see with their eyes, and feel with their heart. So whenever I'm talking to a parent about a problem they're having with their child, I immediately become the child. So what is this feeling like for the 4-year-old? What is the 4-year-old hearing? How is a 4-year-old interpreting those words? And that's the indicator I need to go, this conversation is too harsh. It's too old. I have to be that child in order to understand how to communicate effectively to the child. But I think we still have this, I'm here, you're here, and I'll talk down till you get it. And there's a break in that so that nothing ever happens. And it's this repeat cycle. It's what I call, you live in the cul-de-sac. You do it again and again and again. And everybody thinks it's the child, but it isn't the child. You haven't seen the world like a 4-year-old, so you aren't giving a response that they can understand. Yeah.
And so then they're like, well, don't you, so you never discipline? No, I always am teaching. I'm always teaching. Like, even if, the babysitter last night said, well, I had to take away his elephant because he was hitting. I said, you don't need to take away his elephant. You need to remove him from the situation with somebody else. Like, he's not being banished if he's doing something that's physical, because he has impulse controls. And then you just need to help him. You need to help him understand, why are you doing this? What do you think that feels like to your brother? And what are you feeling right now? And is there another way we can get that out? So are those good?
Start with, what do you want your brother to know when you hit him?
Yes. Okay.
Because he's saying, so he's communicating.
Yes. They're always trying to communicate.
The hitting isn't the thing. The hitting is a kind of communication, and the kid is stuck there. So it's like, oh, what did I want him to know? That I was mad about. So what would have happened if you'd said, I don't want you? Oh, I never looked at it that way. So it's really about slowing down for us. But as adults, we get kudos for being quick problem solvers. And so we bring that into our parenting, and the kids are like, I
missed half of that. Yeah.
One
of the other things that you said that I'm so grateful for, and I repeat it a lot, is that the relationship that you have with your children is modeling how to have relationships. And so if you are respectful and kind and asking questions, and that's what they're learning about adult relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they go out immediately. Those first interactions with their peers, they're looking to model what they have been fed for 3, 4, 5 years. So that now they're in mommy and daddy mode, thinking, this is what I know about relationships. I wonder if it will work. And wow, what a wake up call when the other person doesn't respond in the way that you had anticipated. It also puts them at risk to be drawn towards people who are not going to be good for them, who have a different value system, who don't, carry the same values that we do. So thinking about the blueprint that you're helping your child create, for me anyway, was like, oh man, that's my account. I don't need an accountability coach. No. That one thought was my accountability coach. Okay. Do I want my child to replicate what I just said, or be drawn to somebody who speaks to them that way? And if the answer is no, I have to stop doing that right this minute. And boy, did I get good at walking out of the room and saying, I need to control my mouth right now, because my emotions are getting the best of me. I will be back with you in 5 minutes. Thank you so much. And then go in and think, all right, what is this triggering in me, and what do I want to do about it? Yeah.
And you also said, and naming the values. You know what? In our family, we don't hit people. It's not about, at the second you send them to their room, you've lost that opportunity to teach them what your values are, which are, our values are that we don't destroy things. Our values are that we, talk to each other kindly, that we don't hit each other. And, so we, clearly we need another way. Okay, I got to learn how to get more questions in there, but because I always jump to the, we need to speak differently to them, but.
Yeah. And I think when we start to challenge ourselves to ask questions, what it does is it without us knowing it, it makes us think about, well, where do I land on this topic really? Like, what are my actions showing my child? Because they're only what, as Adler would say, don't listen to the mouth, watch the feet. And kids only watch what their parents do. They don't listen to our words. They watch our actions.
Yeah.
So we have to be held accountable in that way. And I think asking questions is a great way for us to hold ourselves accountable and to sniff out where we get tripped up and where those beliefs start to make trouble in our families. Yeah, so I think it's important for parents to build it instead of worrying about all the strategies for the kids. If we paid more attention to the strategies for managing our own mouths and actions and attitudes, it would go a long way in helping our kids thrive in a more positive and productive way, for sure.
Good. So good. Okay, I know I'm over my time. Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Okay. Well, because I know that a lot of parents are struggling with this, the label of ADHD, which is so overprescribed. I have had my 7-year-old tested because I'm trying to get him into a special school just for the dyslexia to, give him more tools.
Yeah.
But, they were like, your child definitely is ADHD. Like, he cannot sit still for 5 seconds. So I started to really explore it. And, and in the report, it says, when your child when you get it under control, he can then access these, curriculums and better schools, which translated to when you medicate him, he'll be able to calm down and do it. And then you've got all the parents saying, oh, it was the best thing I ever did. Now he can sit still and learn. And I'm like, I don't care if he doesn't sit still and learn. Like, that's not my agenda. I don't need him to learn the 50 states. I don't need him to learn all the, presidents. I want him to enjoy it. So anyway, and then you've got the people who are like, I would never medicate. And I don't know if I'm doing a disservice to him, because I can tell there are times when he's escalated, and you can tell, like, he can't stop chasing the cat and terrorizing the cat. And he can't, and I try to, and he can't rip up all the styrofoam in the house. And then I can't even get in there to say, gosh, we need to clean it up. And so I'm reading about the ADHD advantage. And even if it is a real word, I think it's an advantage. I think it's a gift. But where on this, for the parents who don't know if their kids have ADHD, and if it's a scale of 1 to 10, what's your advice when people ask you?
It's not what you're born with, it's what you do with what you have. So, okay, everybody has, whenever anybody says my child has ADHD, I say, well, who doesn't?
Right.
Everybody I know has ADHD.
I think I definitely do now that I'm reading about it.
Absolutely. And I think, and so now tell me something else about your child, because it still doesn't tell me anything about the kid. Yeah. ADHD is like saying he has brown hair.
Right.
Okay. And where's the problem? Okay, so he gets caught up tearing the styrofoam apart. In the course of a 24-hour period, what percentage of the time is he in that state? And if it's less than 50%, don't worry about it. Don't.
It's less. It's probably 1 time a month he cycles.
Right. Then it's not even. Then don't even bring it up. It's not even worth talking about. It's like saying, oh, once this month my kid had diarrhea. Maybe I should call the doctor. Right. Because he had.
It's only like he escalates that high, but he can't sit at a table, which I don't care. You want to stand at dinner, that's okay. If you can only stand at the table for 5 minutes, I'm okay with that. But let's try to engage. But I do, when he is escalated, I get it. I just need to find things for him to do to release it, and and work with it, and also talk about it. Like, gosh, I can see, what does it feel like for you? What's going on in your head? How can I help you? Because I can't let you keep chasing the cat. So I get that side of it, but I do understand, and I really appreciate that. Who doesn't have it?
Who doesn't have it? The other thing is, when there's an opportunity. So standing at the table doesn't matter, but it's a perfect place to say, hey, last night I noticed you could only stand at the table for 4.5 minutes before you left. Do you think you could stay for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
So that you're building.
Yeah, building.
Did I lose you?
No, can you see me? I can see you.
I think I did.
No, I can see you.
Maybe not. I'll keep talking because maybe I'm not frozen on your screen.
You're not. Keep going.
It's an opportunity.
The universe is telling me that I have to stop, and I don't want it to stop. Why would my internet go? Uh-oh. You there? Are you there? I'm so sorry, but you know what? This is what happens. This is the world as we know it. I don't get too freaked out about stuff like that, but I was just so fascinated and excited about what you were saying.
Okay, you want me to finish?
Yes,
This is
please.
for you specifically. So if you know that this is a child who has trouble reining themselves in,
Yep.
you want to look at every opportunity to expand so that you have a historical data that says, do you remember when you could only stand at the table for 4 minutes and now you can stay here for 6.5?
Yeah.
It is so fun having you here to talk to. I can't wait till you can sit at the table for 30 minutes because I have a million things I want to know about you. So you've taken the stigma away. You've taken it like, oh, I'm just going to let him go. It's like, you've got to utilize all those moments and think, what's in the best interest of my child? This is a challenge. This is one of the areas where I could be supportive. And what would be the Benny that I got to spend more time with you? Not that I'm proud of you or not that, but that there's more engagement. There's more of you to be in relationship with. And who isn't going to try and sit at the table longer if that's what somebody is saying the Benny is I get more of you because I love you. Like, all right, I'll turn the wigglies down if that's what the payoff is. So
I literally could talk to you for like 3 more hours, but I promised I would keep it short. I think this is such incredible, valuable information that I have no doubt is going to go viral. But I'm so happy to spread your message and your book. And again, I'm going to hold it up one more time. Duct Tape Parenting. I don't know if it's, where can you please tell your website and any social media, how people can find you?
Yeah, they can go to vickyhoefle.com. That's the website. So lots of great information. You'll never have to buy another book in your life because there are 8,000 blog posts on every subject we've ever discussed concerning kids.
They're short and they're short and they give you the problem and the solution like that. And I read 3 this morning. And
Perfect.
So yeah, they're great. So at your website, and then I know you do a course. Is it online? Can they get it?
Yes, if you go to the website, you'll see the next course. You can sign up there. I'm on Facebook and Instagram under Vicky Hoefle, so it's pretty easy to find me. Yeah, and if you ever want to do this again, please let me know. This was such a delight, and if this is a way to get the message out to more folks, then I say yay for all of us.
I am so grateful. I will absolutely be bugging you again.
Good.
I'm going to keep notes. Maybe I'll bring Dashel next time.
Thanks for listening to Happier by the Minute podcast. Please make the world a better place by sharing this, liking it, leaving a comment, all those things you know that we need to help us get the message out. So I really appreciate you listening and really appreciate you helping me share the message.